they spent the money on? They spent it on like food and housing, and I think like a total of like something like 2% they spent on combined drugs, alcohol, and cigarettes, and like a big portion of those people were able to get back into housing as a result of that. It's not a big conundrum why people are homeless. They don't have enough money. They don't have enough opportunities to get money, to get housing, because like massive corporations, for the most part, are skinflints and misers, and we are entering, as my verbiage is, Dickensian territory here. I mean, like we are going absolutely backwards. And, you know, I saw when I was visiting my parents in the San Francisco area, massive numbers of homeless people on the street. And, yeah, it has a little bit of something to do with the fact that, like, the low end of one-bedroom apartments in the city of San Francisco is like $3,000 a month. There is a connection there between, like, the line of tents that you see in the Tenderloin district in San Francisco. You bet there is. Absolutely 100%. I have to take it back for a minute because I cannot leave the discussion of inflation without mentioning one of my pet peeves, and I'm sure you're familiar with this as a shopper, and that is the phenomenon of shrinkflation. And I absolutely hate this. It is such a skeevy way that they go about things in terms of selling consumer goods, largely in grocery stores. They make little changes. You know, they'll take an ounce here and an ounce there, and they change the packaging to make the change as subtle as possible, but they will give you less amount of product for the same price as, you know, as they are raising it so effectively for a higher price. I absolutely hate that, and I've gotten into the habit of, like, you know, examining every time I go to a store, how many ounces are in this? Okay, there used to be like 16 ounces in my can of kidney beans. Now they're 15. Now they're 14, and you see that happening all the time in every different thing. Like, and you know that some little, like, you know, genius in a corner office somewhere said, well, you know, I calculate that if, you know, we reduce the amount by 5%, you know, we'll increase our profits by blah 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 blah. Just like collectively, like, ruining our lives. And I absolutely hate that. It's so illustrative of the kind of mentality that they have to me.
And the other thing is, folks, this is not. I know that we like. When we have a problem, we like one solution. And then when we do that thing, problem solved. Mm-hmm. No, this is multifaceted.
Yeah.
That's the reason why you have to buy 2 cans instead of 1. And you're trying to feed a family of 4. Or maybe you're just trying to feed yourself.
Yeah.
And you're spending twice as much. A small bag of like 5 items is now on average of $50, no matter where you go.
Yeah.
Where I used to spend $20. I would laugh and say, oh, geez, everywhere I go, it's $20. The other day, my husband and I wanted to order Uber Eats. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, with all the fees and all the taxes and everything that goes along with it, we're talking about a cheap meal that we could go pick up for ourselves and pay less in gas. Yeah. That would be like $30 cheaper. That's ridiculous. And even that meal is about maybe $7 or $8 more than it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah. You know, and what's interesting is what I find, because like you have all these, like, 1, like big chain, you know, restaurants, and 2, big chain grocery stores. The closer that you get to a local business that is directly answerable to consumers, and the further away that you get from the stock market, from the corporate model, the better the deal you get. So as much as possible, you know, it isn't possible for everyone, because not everybody has a store like this in their area. But I go to like an employee-owned grocery store or a local grocery store, and I cannot tell you like how much better the deals are than the big chain grocery stores who are answerable to Wall Street. If they are answerable to Wall Street, then their goal is not to provide you with low prices. Their goal is to provide the shareholders with high prices. And So, like, whenever possible, I'll go to like a local restaurant. Not even because I necessarily like dislike, I don't know, Olive Garden or McDonald's or whatever
Oh,
nonsense.
Olive Garden pretty much sucks, though.
You see, I have been trying to tell my daughter that for such a long time, and I did a price analysis of Olive Garden versus the local like Italian joint. I said, you should go here. Like, not only is it better, but the prices are actually lower too. And I don't know, maybe she listened to me, maybe she didn't, but I swear it is better on so many different levels when you do that, because you realize that the lie that they have told you all along, that things should run like a business and business like means more efficiency and make things better, is a complete lie, because you cannot get rid of the fact that ultimately they have to make a profit for shareholders. And when they have more shareholders that they have to answer to, then they don't care about you. And the bigger organization that they are, they're less answerable to you as an individual, and they care less, and they will respond to you less. Whereas a local business will actually respond to you directly, because they know they have to. They know that you are what keeps them in business. A larger business doesn't care, because they can mess around with individual communities, and as long as they have a total positive income, they don't really care about it. So that's really why I go local in a big way.
Yeah, because the only thing you can do, like what's been going on with support for Israel, with
Yes.
Starbucks and McDonald's and a couple of other companies, you can boycott. You can just not shop there. You can just not buy their products.
Yeah.
But when you support a local business, and maybe sometimes, like I've noticed, sometimes a local business is a couple dollars more than you would find it maybe at Walmart or Target. But when you keep that money local and you keep them accountable for their product, you also get to know them. You can also set up rapport with these people. And so you know that your product is good. You know that what you're purchasing, not only you know these people, but you know the money is staying in the community. There's so many, and the unintended consequence, or maybe intended consequence, is that these big companies over time, if a couple of generations did this, we did it, millennials, Gen Z, and then Alpha, over that period of time, those maybe like 10 or 15 years, those big companies would start to see a pinch. They would start to see their profits coming out. And where is it going? It's in the local business. So the local Italian restaurant is making more money, able to expand, able to franchise out, able to become a little bigger.
Yeah.
Isn't that what, America is all about?
That's right. The extra money that you spend is worth it, because it means that your life as a whole, even if you don't see it immediately in that moment, is going to be better, because there are going to be people near where you live who are having good jobs that pay better, and in turn pay taxes, and mean that your infrastructure and social services are going to be better. You may not see that in the moment that you're buying a cup of coffee, but it sure makes a difference. And if you do that consistently, and everybody does that consistently, especially in the light of some of the stands that these companies, as you allude to, have taken, it can make a real difference.
I do want to bring this up too, because another way to think about this is, we have a problem with lobbying. Mm-hmm. We have a problem with companies going in and buying our representatives on the federal and state level, and maybe even lower than that, maybe your city council.
Yeah.
One way to make sure that the lobbying that does happen is at least manageable is supporting local businesses, because then they become the people who are buying your congressmen and women, or your city officials. And then you can control them by just not shopping there anymore.
Exactly. If anybody's going to buy them, I want it to be us.
Yes, exactly. So there are ways that we can manipulate the system that they have set up that benefits them in a way that benefits us. If we simply start buying more local, those people can then afford to become more prominent in our communities, and we can control them by patronizing them or not. So if they can't afford to lobby anymore, then we control them. We control our government. Right. We control our country,
Yeah.
on the state level and everything else.
That's right. It is for that same reason that I have often said, and I know that this is counterintuitive, that both Congress and the president and the Supreme Court should have their salaries tripled. And yeah, it sounds like, wow, well, wouldn't that be spending a lot of money? Yes, but it would save so many more billions of dollars in the long run if we were the ones who were providing for their future, as opposed to massive corporations that were providing for their future. If you just look at Clarence Thomas, and like just for a few trips here and a few trips there, and the buying of a house that amounts to maybe a couple of millions of dollars over the course of 30 years.
Yeah, it's so cheap.
It's so mind-boggling. Politicians are so cheap. We could be buying them.
Yes. If you have a local eatery that you like, and then they become, influential in the community, and they're able to buy your state representatives, then you can control them by not shopping at that place anymore. But recognize that these people are willing to sell themselves for a small dime. I would think, when I looked at how much Leonard Leo has given to Clarence Thomas over the years, it's really not as much as you think.
Yeah.
It's total maybe a couple millions of dollars. I would think over this time it would be like $1 billion. It's not.
Yeah, it really isn't anywhere close. Like, we were talking about inflation, but the cost of politicians is holding steady or going down over the course of time.
Maybe they should complain about that too. Maybe the cost of their bribes should go up because of inflation. I don't know.
Well,
wait, I'm giving them bad ideas.
You're giving them bad ideas. You see, the thing is, like the corporations are getting such a good deal as it is, that they wouldn't want to do that, and then they'd balk at that, and then they'd screw up their own system. So I think that would be okay. By the way, I do have to mention the ICJ, the International Court of Justice ruling. I think it wasn't what a lot of us wanted. It didn't call for a ceasefire because South Africa had sued Israel in the International Court of Justice. It says Israel must take all measures within its power to stop genocide. But what really got to me was the U.S. response to this, and it's so maddening. The U.S. said today that the ruling of the International Court of Justice was consistent with the Biden administration's call for Israel to minimize civilian harm, increase humanitarian assistance, and address dehumanizing rhetoric. A U.S. State Department spokesman has said, quote, "We continue to believe that allegations of genocide are unfounded." I'm just going to stop at that point. Do you not see what like thousands and thousands of videos have produced of the destruction of hospitals and the destruction of university and the deaths of children? How can you say at this point that we believe the allegations of genocide are unfounded? That is such well,
they're telling you.
Blind.
It's right there in the verbiage.
Yeah.
It's right there in the words that they're using. Yeah. They believe. I'm sure that they do. I would love to as well. Yeah. However, the facts go against it. And so for someone who, in their line of work, facts are imperative because a misconstruing of an event or a perspective that is askew could cause a global catastrophe.
Yeah.
So to say that you believe, that's wonderful, but I'm talking to you in your employee capacity. And as an employee in your capacity, you should be dealing with facts.
That's right. It's belief. It's a faith-based reaction to genocide.
Exactly. So, and that's what this is. And it's disgusting. Like what the Israeli defense minister said, who called Palestinians human animals, then says the International Court of Justice went above and beyond granting South Africa's anti-Semitic request. Look, you can't say that everything is anti-Semitic because you disagree with it, because then nothing is anti-Semitic. So let's keep that to certain things. And by the way, I'll said it before and I'll say it again. I find it absolutely ironic that this person